Hello lovelies, and welcome back to my channel, and if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Today we're going to be talking about a palette from an indie brand that has quickly become one of my favorites. I've started to collect several of their different palettes, and this one is one that's included in that list, and I'm so excited to get to try it out today. It is the Ghost Town USA palette from Nomad Cosmetics. This is such a beautiful and a fun palette, and I'm really excited to show off the color story inside and the really fun packaging on the palette itself. This is just the outer carton, and it is so cool and so creepy and fun, and the color story inside is really unique and grungy, and I just can't wait to show you how I created this beautiful blue and green inspired cut crease look today. So come along with me and let's make up the rules. The packaging on this palette is really cool. You can see the outer carton is just so spooky, so creepy. The name on it is written in gold. It is just such a cool package. The back of the package has just some information about it, and then the names of the shades over here. And then we can go ahead and take the palette out of the box. And I love the palette packaging. It is so cool. You can see it is the kind of lenticular, so it goes from the normal daytime and just kind of out in the Old West, and then when you turn it, it shifts to the creepy ghost town. You can see this cool ghost rider here in the middle. There's some other ghosts kind of throughout with their creepy glowing eyes. So it is just such a cool package. I absolutely love how it just kind of shifts from the daytime to the nighttime. It is really, really cool. And then the palette on the inside is gorgeous. This color story is so amazing. The mattes in here are so deep and so grungy, and the shimmers are beautiful. I love that all of the shades in here are mostly in columns that kind of go together, so you could definitely make a look using just the shades in a column. You can definitely look at quads in here, different sections, so I think it's set up very nicely, and I'm really excited to go ahead and take some swatches, so let's take a look at those. As I was getting ready to take the swatches, I was trying to decide how I wanted to pair them up, and as I was looking at the palette, I realized that it was very easy because the mattes in here have a shimmer that just kind of pairs up with them. There's an even amount in the palette, so I think that's really nice that you can even just do a two shadow look. You can do a matte and a shimmer and be done. There's just so much versatility in this palette. This palette swatched beautifully. Every single shade in here is so deep, so pigmented, and just has so much color to it. I love that you can create so many different versatile kind of looks in here in terms of the color story. There is a lot of neutral in here, so you can make some really deep and really grungy neutral looks, but there is also a lot of blue and green in here, and that's more what I want to focus on in my look today. But the shades in here are just so beautiful and grungy. This Quicksilver shade is so pretty. It's got a little bit of blue and a little bit of silver in it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And there are a couple of shades in here that really look kind of pink in the pan, but when I swatched them, they came a little bit more brown with just some pink sparkle in them. So I thought that was really pretty and goes very well with the neutral brown mattes in this palette. The shades that are in the blue and the green section are so beautiful. They are really rich, really pigmented. You can really create a lot of depth with the blues and the greens in here, especially the blues. They are so deep and they have such a good range. This entire column of blues just really goes from light to medium to dark, so you can really create a very deep, very dramatic look with this palette. Everything in here is just so beautiful. So it's swatched beautifully, and I cannot wait to go ahead and dive in and start our tutorial for today. I have my eyes primed with my Pigment Pop Eye Primer from Ulta Beauty Collection, so we're going to go ahead and start on our tutorial. Like I mentioned, I do want to focus more on this blue and green half over here, and so I think I'm going to do a cut crease today and really focus mostly on the blues, and then just add some little pops of green throughout. So I'm going to start out, and I'm going to go in with an Ace Beauté Paletteopoly Collection brush. This is P4, and this is just a really small small, fine detail kind of brush, and I'm going to go ahead and start creating the shape for my cut crease. So I'm going to go into this deepest blue here. This one is called Dead Man's Hand. It is a really beautiful, really deep blue, and I think it's going to be a great start for our cut crease. So I'm just going to use that brush and just pick up a little bit of product, not a lot, and I'm going to even tap some back into the pan because these are very pigmented shadows. They definitely have a lot of pigment and a lot of kind of kick up in the pan, so I definitely want to be careful and not pick up too much at a time. I can definitely build, but I don't want to make a big mess with the shadows. So I'm going to just pick up just a little bit on my brush, and I'm going to start creating the shape for my cut crease. So I'm going to start more towards the inner corner and then move outward and just kind of create a little bit of kind of a bump shape. So I'm going to start here and just kind of following the natural shape of my crease. I'm going to apply the shadow and then just using soft motion, very slowly, just kind of building up some pigment and then just kind of bringing it down as it's moving towards the outer corner, and then just kind of giving it a little bit of sort of a wing on the end here. And that is really pretty, definitely just starting to see that shape be formed. And then just kind of filling in the edges where I didn't have as much product, just kind of adding to that shape. That is such a beautiful shade. I think that's going to be great for this cut crease, and I think it's going to blend very nicely with the other blues in this palette and create a really beautiful look. So I'm just going to kind of build up this line. That is really pretty. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side and just kind of follow that same shape and that same shape of my crease, and then kind of matching the other side. So I'm going to just kind of look at both sides at the same time and just sort of follow the same shape. Okay, so I have the same shape on both sides, so now I'm going to again just kind of grab a little bit more of that shadow and really fill this in and build up that pigment. That is really pretty. You can tell they're not exactly even, but that's okay. We're going to build up with the other shadows, and it's going to just kind of even out as we blow it out. So I'm just going to grab a cloth and I'm just going to wipe off that brush, just wipe off a little bit of the excess of that dark shadow. And then we're going to start to move into the lighter shades and sort of build up this cut crease and lighten it up as we go. So I'm going to go next into this shade, and this one is called Calamity Jane. And I'm going to use that same brush. Like I said, I cleaned it off just a little bit. I'm going to just tap any excess over that pan and then just have a little bit on my brush. And I'm going to go right along the top of that first shadow and start to build up the pigment and start to kind of blend this out and blow it out on the top. So I'm just going to follow that line with my brush using back and forth motions and just start to build up the color here, and just going right along the line so that you can see it is starting just kind of to fluff out and blow out that shade. That is so pretty. You definitely can start to see the difference on both eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. This is looking so pretty. So again, I'm just going to grab a cloth and I'm just going to wipe off the excess off of my brush, and then we're going to continue to lighten up our cut crease. So now I'm going to go into this lightest blue shade up here, and this one is called Skinner's Saloon. So I'm going to take that brush and I'm just going to dip into this one just a little bit, again tapping off any excess into the pan, and then just following that same process, just going to continue to blend out and lighten out our cut crease as we're moving up towards our brows. This is looking so pretty. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab some concealer. This is from Ulta Beauty Collection. It is Complexion Crush Full Coverage Concealer, and the shade is Fair Cool. This is the one that I like to use, and so I'm going to use a little bit of this concealer and I'm going to just clean up my cut crease. So I'm going to just grab a different mirror so I can just use this to really focus on cleaning this up. So I'm just going to take some out of the bottle and I'm going to use the applicator and just put some of this all over the lid in that clean space. And then I'm going to use a concealer brush from Sephora Collection, and I'm just going to spread this out over my lid And then I'm going to use it to really clean up the bottom edges of my cut crease. And so I'm going to just pat this in, and then any excess that I have. I don't want a lot of product. I want to be able to be very fine, very precise with it. So I'm going to just kind of blend out what I have and then just use the excess to cut the crease. So I'm using just the top of my brush and the flat edge of it to go ahead and do the cut crease, and really just grabbing the product and rounding it out so that I've got a nice round shape here that just follows the natural line of that shadow that we applied. And I'm going to bring it out all the way out here as well, cleaning up all of the shadow that I've applied and creating more of a sharp line or a sharp wing out here on the edge. And you can always apply more concealer if you feel like you're running out and you don't have enough to continue cutting the crease. You can definitely dab a little bit more on and then just continue to use that product to cut the crease. So I do want to bring my line up a little bit higher. I want it to be up more into my crease and a little less down towards my lid. So I'm just going to continue to add concealer until I get the shape that I want. Alright, so I'm going to just finish cleaning things up and go ahead and do the other side, and I'll be right back. I have finished working on my cut crease, and you can see I have the concealer all the way across on both sides. I've really defined the shape of the crease and really started to build up the shape of this look. And I did find as I was using my concealer and going through with the brush that I was starting to get really kind of a blur of blue in my concealer. If that happens to you, I would just recommend wiping off your brush, getting that excess product off, and then starting again with some clean concealer, and that should help to really be able to cover up those really deep pigments. So now we're ready to go ahead and start working on the lid, and so I'm going to go in with some shimmer on the lid, and really just to define the lid and to really leave the cut crease as bold and as defined as I'm wanting. So I'm going to go in with some NYX glitter primer and going to go ahead and apply this all over the lid, all over where we just applied the concealer. So I'm just going to put some on my finger, and I'm just going to use my fingers to apply this, and really just putting this all over the lid, all over the place where we just cut the crease. So I'm just going to take my finger and just tap this all over the concealer and really just start to create a tacky base for our shimmers, because I definitely want the shimmers to pop and to shine on the lid. So I'm going to just tap this all over and really start to build up that base. And I'm going to bring this out along this edge and anywhere else that I have the concealer. So towards the inner corner, across the lid, and then out here along the concealer that we use to sharpen out this edge. Okay, now that we have our NYX glitter primer all over the lid, I'm going to go in with a flat shadow brush. Today I'm going to be using another one from that Ace Beauté Paletteopoly collection. This is brush P3, and it's just a nice flat shadow brush. And I'm going to go in with a beautiful blue shimmer to really match those blue mattes that we applied. So I'm going to use this one up here. This one is called Quicksilver, and I think this is going to look really pretty and pop really nicely on the lid. So I'm just going to take my brush and just pick up some product on one of the flat edges, and then I'm going to just start applying this on the lid. I'm going to move this more towards the center. I'm trying to decide if I want to put this all over the lid or if I want to go into another shade towards the outer edge. So I'm going to start applying it and then make that decision. So I'm just going to use tapping motion and just start to apply this everywhere that we just put the NYX glitter primer. And then I'm going to use the flat end of my brush to really work the shimmer right along the edge of the cut crease. So I want to keep this defined where we put the concealer and really just build up the pigment right here on the lid. So just following that line that we've already created using the concealer and just keeping this right along that edge. We want to keep everything very nice, very defined, very sharp, and really just to build up more pigment. So again, I'm just kind of using patting or tapping motion to apply the shadow so that it will stay exactly where I want it and it will stick to that glitter primer. and really continue to build up the pigment. This is such a beautiful shade. It pops really nicely on the lid with this cut crease. I'm really happy I chose to use this one. I do think I will use another shade just because this is going to be a lot if I apply this all the way across. And also, since this is my first time using this palette, I just want to play with more of the shade. So I am going to apply this probably about halfway across the lid, maybe a little more than half. And then we'll apply some other shimmer along the outer edge. And I am just looking and seeing where I see any gaps in the shimmer and just really patting the pigment in and really building that up. And I'm bringing this down into the inner corner just a little bit, just to really finish off cutting the crease there. That is so pretty. I'm going to pause right there for just a second, do the other side, and then we'll add a different shade on the outer corner. Okay, so I have that shimmer all over the inner part of the lid. Now I'm going to move into this beautiful shade down here. This one is called Smoky Quartz. This one is a little bit unique to this palette. It is sort of a matte and a shimmer combined. All the other shimmers in here are much more just defined shimmers. This one came across a little bit more matte with some glitter, but I think it's going to look really pretty and it's going to blend very nicely with that Quicksilver shade. So I'm using that same brush, and I didn't clean it off. Most of the pigment came off as I applied Quicksilver. So I'm just going to pick some of this up on my brush and then just continue the same process and continue to build out the pigment along this outer corner. So I'm just going to again use tapping motion and start applying this along the concealer that we applied, using back and forth motions as I'm meeting that Quicksilver shade, just to really blend everything together and make sure that the entire lid is covered. And then again, just using the top of my brush or the flat edge of my brush along the cut crease just to make sure that it's all defined exactly the way I want. Bringing this over to the edge of my lid, and then we are going to start to pull this out just a little bit underneath this winged part of the cut crease. So again, just kind of using the flat end of my brush, I'm just going to start to pull this out along this edge and really defining where the concealer is. And you can see it's starting to apply more of a triangular shape out here on the edge. That's what we want. We want everything to be winged out and very sharp along the edge. That is so pretty. It's blending in very nicely with that Quicksilver shade. And definitely it's just adding just a little more depth, more on this outer edge, and a little more dimension to the look overall. That is so pretty. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, and we'll be back and we'll work on the lower lash line. This is looking so pretty. I absolutely love the blue cut crease. I do want to add a little bit of green to this look also. So I think I'm going to go for the lower lash line into this beautiful green shade up here. This one is called Ghost Town. And I'm going to go back to that Paletteopoly brush P4, that small detailed one we used at the beginning. And I'm going to use this to apply this beautiful Ghost Town shade onto my lower lash line. So I'm just going to pick some up on my brush and I'm just going to line it all the way across underneath and just start to build up a little bit of pigment. I did clean it off in between, so I'll just have the green shade down here and just applying it all the way across. And I'm going to create a little bit of a thick line. We definitely have a very bold look today, and so I'm going to make the lower lash line pretty bold also, and just really build up this pigment and create a lot of depth here. For this to be the lightest green shade in the palette, it definitely is very bold and very pigmented, and I love how that looks. So I'm going to apply some on the other side, and then we're going to deepen it up just a little bit more. That is so pretty. Now we're going to deepen it up with this other green. This one is called Stagecoach Mary. It is really pretty. And I'm going to use that same brush without cleaning it off and just pick up a little bit of pigment, tap off any excess into the pan, and then I'm going to apply this on the outer half of my lower lash line just to really deepen this up. So I'm just going right over that Ghost Town shade, using circular motions just to blend it in and really deepen up this outer corner. That is really pretty, and again, doing the same thing on the other side. I love how that looks. So now I want to just lighten up the lower lash line just a little bit. So I'm going to go into this green shimmer. This one is Calico California, and I'm just going to use that same brush, just continue to use that. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that pigment on my brush, and then I'm going to use some Ulta Beauty setting spray just to add a little bit of tackiness to this. So just giving it a quick spray, and then I'm going to apply this on this inner part of the lower lash line just to add a little bit of shimmer and a little bit of lightness to the lower lash line. And you can see that definitely makes a big difference. There's a little bit of lightness there and just a little extra glow to the look. That is so pretty. And so now I just want to finish up with an inner corner highlight. So I'm going to go in with a Real Techniques detailing brush, and I'm going to go into this beautiful light shimmer up here. This one is called Tombstone, and I'm going to do the same process. I'm just going to pick a little bit of pigment up on my brush, and then I'm going to use my setting spray just to create a little bit of tackiness for this, and then apply this on the inner corner. And I love these shimmers. The mattes in this palette are so dark and so deep, and the shimmers are really beautiful and light, so I feel like they add just a little bit of lightness to the look, so that way it's not so dark. And I think that's really pretty, and it really complements the mattes really well. So that is beautiful. I love how that looks. I'm so happy with this eyeshadow and this cut crease. I think it turned out really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and step off camera and add some finishing details, and I'll be back in just a moment and we'll take a look at the final look. And here is the finished look. I think this turned out so cute. It is such a fun and bold look, and I definitely loved getting to use the Ghost Town palette and getting to create this fun cut crease. For my details, of course, I went in with a winged liner to match that winged eyeshadow that we did. I used my Wet n Wild Breakup Proof waterproof liner in Ultra Black, and also tight lined on the top with Ulta Beauty Collection automatic eyeliner in matte black. And then for my lower waterline, since I had the green on the bottom, I decided to go in with a green liner in my waterline. This is from NYX. It is the Epic Wear liner stick in the color Emerald Cut. And for my eyelashes, I went in with my Tarte Maneater waterproof mascara. So I'm really happy with how this look turned out. I think it's really pretty. I'm going to go ahead and zoom you in. We'll take a closer look at this final look, and then I'll be back and share some of my thoughts about the palette with you. Enjoyed getting to use the Ghost Town USA palette from Nomad Cosmetics. It was such a beautiful palette, and I really enjoyed getting just to play with these deep grungy shadows and to be able to create such a bold and fun look today. The box that the palette comes in is so cool. It is just creepy and fun, and I absolutely love just all the details on here. And then I love the actual palette itself with that lenticular design that we've got, just kind of that holographic from day to night, from normal to spooky. I think it is just so cool and such a unique and fun design for this palette, and I really enjoyed getting to play with the different shades in here. Of course, this color story is absolutely stunning. I love every shade in here. It is just so much fun, and I love just the versatility of this palette, that it has so many neutrals that you can create as just such a bold and beautiful neutral look, but of course you can also create a beautiful deep and grungy blue and green look like what we created today with this cut crease. So I really enjoyed getting to just dip into these different shadows. Of course, it was a little hard to do that just because of the beautiful embossings in here, but I really enjoyed getting just to dip into the shadows. The mattes in here are so soft, so buttery, very blendable. Definitely as we were creating the matte blue cut crease, these three blues on this column here were just so beautiful. They blended together beautifully and really helped to soften things out. And then the shimmers in here are absolutely gorgeous. That's to be expected with Nomad products, and they just are so gorgeous. I again really like these two pink pink looking shades down here on the bottom. I thought they were really cool, and when I swatched them, how they came out more brown with little pops of pink in them, I thought was really cool and very unique to those shades. They definitely didn't appear on the skin quite like how they look in the pan. So it's always fun to have shades like that there's a little bit of an unexpected twist to them. So I really enjoyed having that in this palette. This Quicksilver shade that we used on the lid I thought was beautiful. It is such a bright and shimmery silvery blue shade. It is really unique and really pretty, and I definitely really enjoyed getting to use that one today. This Calico California shade down here, this green one, was so pretty to put on the lower lash line. Of course, these green mattes were beautiful, and I really enjoyed putting them together and blending them, but they were a little bit on the dark side, so that green shimmer was perfect just to lighten the look up and just to create just a little bit of lightness on the lower lash line. So overall, I just thought this was a beautiful palette. The color story again is amazing, and then the packaging is absolutely out of this world. So I really enjoyed getting to use this palette, and I'm looking forward to creating more looks with it. Thank you so much for clicking on my video today and taking the time to watch. I really enjoyed creating this beautiful blue and green cut crease using the Nomad Cosmetics Ghost Town USA palette, and I would love to hear from you in the comments below if you've had a chance to pick up this palette, what your thoughts are about the packaging and the color story, and then also what your thoughts are about this look that I created today. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and hit that like button. It really helps out my channel when you take just a moment to do that. And then also, if you are interested in seeing other makeup tutorials, swatches, reviews, all of those things about Nomad Cosmetics or other makeup brands, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd love to have you around in the future. Until next time, let's be kind to each other, beautiful to ourselves, and never afraid to make up the rules.